10 to 2 a.m. X, Yogi, DMT, and a box of Krispy Kremes in my need-to-know pose just outside Area 51, contemplating the whole chosen people thing, just when a flaming stealth banana splits the sky like one would hope and never really expect to see in a place like this, cutting right angles upon a dime, stopping right at my Birkenstocks, with me yelling, holy fucking shit, holy fucking shit, holy fucking shit, holy fucking shit. Fuck me, it's gotta be the deadhead chemistry. The blotter got right on top of me, got me seeing motherfucking T. Welcome back. This is the Eclectic Podcast, episode 13. Sitting here with Josh Holbrook. Beautiful day. It's a little too hot for us out in the direct sunlight, so we're taking refuge in the shade for this cast. We're pleased you could join us. We are back again to educate you. A re-education of sorts.
Yeah, we'll need your help, though.
And your permission.
We've kind of been looking at our podcast from a different angle, under a different light, to maybe, hopefully, kind of see it for the first time. We'd like to try that for you today. Is that alright? So we're not really prepared today for podcasts. It was just too nice of a day to not do one. So we're just kind of going to kick it off with a light subject. And that will be the subject of Sasquatch. Bigfoot. Seeing as we live up here in the Pacific Northwest in prime Bigfoot territory, there's a lot of opinions around here about the big ape man. Seems like everybody, either you yourself or someone you know, has a story of seeing Bigfoot, or coming across a Sasquatch somewhere out in the woods, hearing one, smelling one, whatever. So I thought maybe that would be a good little topic for us to talk about. I think it seems to captivate a lot of people's interest, at least.
Yeah. I have personally never had an experience of seeing said Sasquatch. I have friends who have relayed accounts to me of some strange happenings, but I don't believe. I'm a non-believer in Sasquatch. And that's not to say I don't believe my friends when they tell me these stories, but I think it could be explained away by other animals.
Yeah.
Or just odd things that happen, but doesn't. It seems like if there was a Sasquatch, someone would have some definitive proof right now in the age of cell phones with cameras everywhere, or like finding remains of a Sasquatch somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So far, no dice.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't believe in Sasquatch as well. I think it's a complete myth, complete fabrication. Exactly, no one's ever found a body. We find bodies of animals that have been extinct for millions and millions and millions of years and find their fossils, but we've never found a Bigfoot body or a skeleton or anything. Mm-hmm. Everyone has a cell phone. Everyone takes a million pictures, chicks walk into a bathroom and they take 25 photos to post on the internet. Everyone has a camera with a phone. There's fucking wireless internet on most of the planet. You're telling me that somehow the enigmatic Sasquatch has eluded a photo for, all this time, especially today? I don't buy it.
You'd have to be pretty crafty.
And if they're so few and far between, how do they mate? How do they reproduce? Where are they going to find Mrs. Sasquatch to knock her up and have baby sasses. You know, it doesn't make any sense. It's just that it's not logical. A population that sparse and spread out, they're gonna have a problem even propagating, much less stay hidden during the whole fucking process. They're gonna have to be scouring, and you know, and that would imply that they have to cover large amounts of ground, and they're gonna have to go into areas that aren't heavily wooded. You know, they have to move too much. They can't stay in one spot. They have to move if they exist. And if they move, that, you know, they're going to be seen by somebody. Rangers, hunters, people, whatever. Like, it's a cute fairy tale, but I don't believe Sasquatch at all. I think it's 100% complete bullshit. That's my take on it, though. I think that, you know, bears stand on their hind legs and they cause a lot of ruckus if you get near one. That, you know, they can mistake it for a Sasquatch, maybe, if that's something that your consciousness projects onto it. If you see some furry creature, you know, causing some ruckus in the fucking brush, oh, it's Sasquatch, you know, let's get out of here. I saw Sasquatch. I just don't buy it. I think it's complete. It's a complete fabrication. There's a lot more interesting conspiracy theories out there that we could talk about, and I think Sasquatch is a big distraction, because some people will, like, I don't know. I never understood people lumping aliens in with Sasquatch. Like, do you believe in Bigfoot and aliens? Like, obviously one clearly has to exist, and the other, there's no, like, fucking logic to believe in. Why do they have to, like, get lumped together? You know, doesn't that piss you off when someone's like, would you believe in Bigfoot and aliens too?
Yeah. Because I do believe in aliens. I mean, how could they not be out there?
Yeah, of course there's extraterrestrials.
Yeah, in the vast expanse of the universe, there's got to be something else out there. But Sasquatch is like you said, no evidence backing that up. It's just like like a fairy tale, like you said. It's like not something to be lumped in to the same category. It's apples to oranges. It's apples to Mack trucks.
Yeah, you know. It's hamburgers to boners, you know. It just doesn't. It's completely separate things. Yeah, I just feel like that. This always kind of grinds my gears when they get lumped together, because I feel like it discredits belief in aliens. You know, something I think that any rational person would contemplate and probably come to a belief in.
Yeah.
Rather than 38 men roaming the forests of the Pacific Northwest. You know, it's false. It's false.
That's not to say I haven't heard interesting stories and stuff.
Sure.
That, like, people that I don't think would make it up, you know? But at the same time, like I said earlier, it's stuff that could easily be explained away.
Yeah, and I would say that most of the people that have these stories, they already have, like, Sasquatch as a concept kind of ingrained into their head. And so when they see something that's kind of weird out in the woods, they're going to immediately attribute it to Sasquatch. And they're not going to analyze the objective information of the experience that they had.
So while we're on the topic of conspiracy theories, something I know you're well versed in, maybe you could go into a little bit of depth here. It's the Kennedy assassination.
Yes. Wait for this wind to die down here in a minute. Yeah, I feel like I should have boned up again on all the information, like all the books I've read and stuff about it. But here's a conspiracy theory, the exact opposite of the Sasquatch thing, because it's not only I believe to be, like, completely real, but the implications of it are so vast and so pertinent to our society that I think it's something that should be talked about. Something that everybody should know about, because their elected president was killed, murdered, and there was a coup of the United States government, and it hasn't been the same since. The position of the presidency has basically been demoted to a puppet and just a talking head, a face for freedom and free elections and liberty, when in reality, I guess I'd say a mask.
Mm-hmm.
They can parade out there, when in reality there's kind of a cabal of real nefarious people that really, for all intents and purposes, directs the policies of this nation. Everyone knows the story of Dallas, November 22nd, 1963. JFK's his motorcade makes that turn, and so the story goes, Lee Harvey Oswald was up in the book depository there, poking out a window, and fires off 3 rounds in quick succession, and fucking totally takes off Kennedy's head. That's the story. That's what we're all supposed to believe. Half-assed Warren Commission, later in the 60s, pretty much concluded that it was just Lee Harvey Oswald, and the reported story was completely accurate. Meanwhile, there's thousands of holes in the story, and really compelling evidence that would suggest otherwise. There's a lot of like little examples I've read about, and just really interesting tidbits. Maybe you could kind of comment on just how you've, as just an American born in the 80s and living here in the 21st century, how that story has been portrayed to you, and if there's any parts about it that you feel were maybe just parts about that story that just stink, something fishy about it.
Well, of course, I've got the same account that pretty much everyone else did. It was Lee Harvey Oswald from the suppository building. Several parts of it stink to me.
Mm-hmm.
For one, we're supposed to believe that he got off, 4 shots, 3 hits or something, in like 6 seconds with a bolt-action rifle?
Yeah.
Okay, first off, I don't think that's possible to do if you're just doing it as quickly as you can without aiming.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, with the precision that he supposedly did that with, it's just ridiculous to me. There's no way. No way that you can do that quickly. And that's without taking aiming into account.
Yeah. And
wasn't he murdered too?
Yeah.
Shortly thereafter?
Yeah, let's just get into Lee Harvey Oswald here first, because this is interesting. Like, he was murdered like a day later.
Yeah, before he could go to trial.
By Jack Ruby. Yeah, on public television too, when they were hauling him out of the fucking jailhouse. First of all, Lee Harvey Oswald was he was in the United States military, and he worked in some form, I forget exactly, again, I wish I would have brushed up a lot more, but he had some position with United States intelligence.
Wasn't he originally in the Marines?
I think it was
That's
the Marine Corps.
He was trained originally.
Yeah,
anyhow.
yeah, it was, but he had some sort of position with naval intelligence, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. He was somewhere in the Pacific, I think, doing some sort of information, breaking down information at some naval base. I think just in relation to the Cold War, basically probably keeping an eye on Soviet communications or Soviet positions of their personnel and equipment, something like that. I forget exactly the specifics. I'll get back to you on that. But the interesting part, though, is that he defected to Russia. He defected to the Soviet Union, and this was at the height of the Cold War. People don't just defect to Russia.
Yeah.
Especially not one that had worked in, like highly classified government programs, that he was employed in. And so he made himself out to be this leftist, Marxist, communist sympathizer. And he went to Russia. And he ended up meeting his wife there. And I think he was in, like, Minsk or some shit. He was over there in the Eastern Bloc. And he came back. I'm not sure how much longer. Maybe it was a year or two later after he went there originally. This is the real intriguing part, though, is that he was let back into the United States after being a defector to the Soviet Union, basically a traitor to Russia.
Uh-huh.
He was let back in with like zero like background check or anything. They just totally took him back in, and he made his way down to Texas. I think he was in New Orleans too at one point, but he made it back down to the United States and his Russian wife brought his wife from Russia. And this was at the height of the Cold War, when if you wore a fucking red T-shirt and people thought you were sympathetic to the communist cause. This was during McCarthyism and all that bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
There was a massive witch hunt for communists. This
the
guy,
Red Scare.
This guy just comes back into the country without fucking like any questions being asked that you think that our government would be all over it. Like, whoa, red flag. This guy, he's in Russia? He's a defector? We're going to let him back in? We're not going to haul him in for questioning about, are you some sort of double agent or some shit?
Yeah.
So basically, I think by, this whole story, again, this is something, if you're interested, you should research a little bit more than I can. I don't remember all the details right now, but I know that they're all very engrossing. And, so it begs the question, was Lee Harvey Oswald still working for the CIA or for whatever government intelligence agency he was associated with? It seems to me like, of course, he was. He was sent to Russia to be an agent for the United States.
Mm-hmm.
He was sent to be a double agent for us. And to try to get inside, he basically going to Russia and all that gives him street cred, and they wanted to bring him back to the United States afterwards, and have him infiltrate communist groups in the United States, domestic communist factions,
mm-hmm.
and get inside there and kind of report back, So that kind of totally blows up the official account of how he was a communist or whatever, some leftist that didn't like Kennedy because Kennedy was the American president or whatever. Regardless of the fact that Kennedy was the most conciliatory president towards the Soviet Union that there ever was during the Cold War. But so that's just to start with. Lee Harvey Oswald. There's a lot of holes in the official story of that man, and I don't think that he was who they said he was. I think he was a government agent and working for the United States government the whole time. And I still think he was a patsy. I don't think he wanted to kill Kennedy.
Yeah.
I think what happened was he was placed up there. He was in Dallas, that's where he lived. Everything surrounding the events of that day, I think he was given vague details about what was going on, and kind of coerced into the position that he was in. And I think it's evident that he was a patsy, that he was being set up to take the fall for this. There was an incident like a month prior to Kennedy assassination, not in Dallas but in Chicago. And there's almost an exact parallel story of some loner, like, guy that had worked for the government that was supposedly tied to communist parties and was gonna assassinate Kennedy in Chicago. And I think there was some problem that occurred, and they had to abort that mission. It was basically all the events in Dallas replicated, but it was in Chicago prior, like a month prior. So I think that, I forget exactly what it was, but they had to basically abort that, what would have been the Kennedy assassination, and then it switched to Dallas as the next target. And it was like I know about it from a book called JFK and the Unspeakable by James W. Douglas, probably my favorite book ever, and or one of them. I know there's some black Secret Service guy that I think he was a whistleblower, and I think he saw a lot of shit that wasn't adding up, and he caused some controversy with it, and it brought too much heat for him to carry it out there. So it just, Plan B was Dallas and Lee Harvey Oswald as the patsy, rather than some other guy that was being set up to take the fall for it. And so yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald gets murked, being brought out of the jailhouse the next day by Jack Ruby, who had mafia and some would even suggest CIA connections, because he was in the inner circles of mafioso that themselves had CIA collaborations during the Cold War. So you have this mafia, CIA connected guy that comes out of nowhere, shoots Lee Harvey Oswald on national television before he can even get a fucking testimony really as to what happened in his side of the story. And I think that that's so quintessential fucking cover up written all over it.
And it's winding back to like what you were saying about when Oswald defected to Russia.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, it's one of two scenarios when he came back.
Mm-hmm.
It was either A, like you said, he was working for the CIA all along,
mm-hmm.
and they were bringing him back with some street cred to infiltrate
mm-hmm.
groups,
mm-hmm.
or they let him back in so that, he became too much of a liability at that point, and he's kind of a rogue, and maybe he wasn't cooperating with them all the time, but they had this plan in place where they could kill two birds with one stone, so to speak.
Exactly.
Get him out of the way.
The perfect patsy.
Mm-hmm.
To use him for this, yeah.
Essentially, at that point, he was too much of a liability either way, whichever scenario it was,
mm-hmm.
and that's why they had Jack Ruby off him.
Well, yeah. They weren't going to let Lee Harvey Oswald publicly give his side of the story.
Yeah.
So that's just one aspect of this whole thing, is that there's all these holes in the story of the person that supposedly committed this crime, and then his murder the next day, and the guy that murdered him. Like, just from that alone, besides the physics of the actual, like, pulling off the perfect shot, in such quick succession,
Mm-hmm.
that whole thing stinks. But it goes a lot deeper than that,
Well, another part that I find very unbelievable about the whole thing is probably one of the biggest blunders in this whole cover-up is that they killed him while he was being videotaped.
Yeah.
And the angles of the shots, the impact of the shots on Kennedy's head don't suggest that they
mm-hmm.
came from the book suppository building at all.
Yeah. Came from the front, right?
The grassy knoll.
Yeah, exactly. And there, again, JFK and the Unspeakable by James W. Douglas. If anyone has any interest in the JFK assassination, you have to read that book. It's the end-all, be-all testament of what really happened that day.
Or just watch that movie,
JFK the movie. Yeah, it's a
great movie.
The book goes into just like about 1,000 more facets of it, though.
Well,
so
yeah.
if you're left on the fence after watching that film, this will totally just shove your ass over the fence, and you're
Yeah.
like, all right, something fucking's wrong here.
Well, that being said, yeah, books are always, in my opinion, better than the movies that accompany them, but, you know, sometimes
Yeah.
people don't have time to read the whole book or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
It's a great movie.
if you got
for
time,
starters.
read the book. If you don't, watch the movie, and then if you're still tripping, read the book.
Yeah. And just while we're throwing books out there, a couple other ones that are really interesting. Like, it's good to have a few different, read a few different books about it to kind of like round out your whole like knowledge of the event.
Yeah.
So JFK and the Unspeakable, James W. Douglas. Then JFK by L. Fletcher Prouty, which was the basis for the JFK film, the Oliver Stone movie. And then a third one I read that was really good was called Brothers by, I think, David Talbot, maybe. And that kind of got into RFK and Bobby's kind of his actions after the assassination and his efforts to get to the bottom of it.
Mm-hmm.
But we've just been discussing the why, or the how Kennedy was assassinated. We haven't really discussed why. Why did they want Kennedy dead?
Well,
That's the most interesting part to me.
I think for any rational person, it's plain to see that there are these corporate military interests that were becoming prevalent. Who was the president who warned about the dangers of the growing military-industrial complex?
It was Dwight Eisenhower, January 1961, days before JFK took the oath of office. His very last speech to the American public before he left office, Eisenhower said that we had to beware of the growing military-industrial complex.
Yeah. And I think that's what it was. He came into conflict too much. Kennedy was not going... He was going to be a man of his word and stick by his convictions and try to do the right thing, and
Yeah.
they couldn't have that.
Yeah.
They needed people who were malleable to their demands.
Mm-hmm.
People who are essentially puppets on a
Yeah.
fucking string.
Like everyone since him has been.
Yeah. Because if they don't play along, they just play that Kennedy tape and say, you get it?
Yeah.
You get it? This is what's going to happen if you don't do what we fucking say.
Yep. You know, Barack got that little fucking speech.
Oh, yeah.
Probably wet his
I'm
pants.
sure they all have. I don't know what I would do in that situation.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one to even fathom. I don't know.
I'd
either.
try to fucking stay away from that.
I'd probably
situation
resign
altogether.
immediately. Like, oh,
Yeah.
just kidding. I don't really want to be president. You take it, John McCain.
I'm gonna go live in Morocco or something.
But yeah, so there were a lot of different facets to why Kennedy was assassinated. But it comes down to his conflict with the military-industrial complex and the fact that he was devoted to peace, world peace for everybody, for every individual on this planet should live in peace. That was Kennedy's dream. And there's a lot of little details. Like, of course, Vietnam. He was trying to get out of Vietnam, and he was going to get everyone out of Vietnam. There would have been no Vietnam War had Kennedy lived. Cuba was a big thing. They were trying to invade Cuba. All the right-wing militaristic side of the country wanted to invade Cuba, and there was the Bay of Pigs, and Kennedy was kind of he faltered on that, and he didn't. I mean, he got a lot of anger from the hard right wing of the country, as well as a lot of the Cuban, the exiled Cuban community in Florida that were really gung ho to go back into Cuba and take it over from Castro. Caught the ire of them, and it was seen as a blunder. And then, of course, the Cuban Missile Crisis, when they were, everyone was like, all right, Soviets moving nuclear warheads into Cuba. We got to do something about this. Everyone wanted the Cold War to just erupt at that point and say, all right, this is it's going down now. We got to go do something about this. And Kennedy, kind of stayed calm and collected and handled it. And between him and his brother Bobby, they were able to maintain their cool heads, and effectively they saved the world. None of us. It was so close to erupting into nuclear war at that point. It was. I mean, at any minute it could have fucking erupted. And so, I mean, effectively, he saved the world. Kennedy's the reason we're here today. That was before we were born. Our parents were infants, probably. Everyone would have been wiped off the map. But he was orchestrating a nuclear ban treaty with Khrushchev. And Khrushchev doesn't get enough credit. He was actually a similar character to Kennedy in wanting peace and everything.
They had a lot of respect for each other, a lot of mutual respect.
Yeah. What people don't understand is how vastly outnumbered Kennedy and his brother were, and their close circle. They had some aides and stuff. They were close to them and agreed with them. But for the most part, Kennedy was vastly outnumbered in his own government by just harsh right-wing zealots that wanted war with the Soviet Union. They were just very militaristic. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, in particular Curtis LeMay, who was the commander of the Air Force, and I think he was in charge of the Strategic Command, which was the entire nuclear squadron of nuclear bombers in the Air Force. So all of our air nuclear abilities, this Curtis LeMay guy was in charge of. Curtis LeMay was a fucking nut job. Crazy piece of shit this guy was. He was the most bigoted, he was just thirsty for war.
Just a warmonger, piece of shit.
Yeah. Just a fucking warmonger. He hated Kennedy with a passion. He wanted war with Russia. And there were, thousands of people just like him inside the United States government when Kennedy was president that hated Kennedy and wanted him out so they could take things in the direction they wanted. Kennedy and his brother were like the stalwarts. They were like the immovable object that just wouldn't fucking hear it, And I remember reading about one Joint Chiefs of Staff meeting that they were all plotting and planning to attack Russia, and Kennedy was like, well, we're still going to incur 60 million casualties on the first day if this erupts. But they're just it's all dotting the T's, crossing the I's. Reverse that. Crossing the T. Is that what I said?
No, but they got the point.
Yeah. Well, they were just worried about the numbers, the bottom line casualties that we were going to face versus Russia. And they predicted that we could completely eliminate Russia and still have some people left in the United States. So they figured that it was a victory and we should do it. And Kennedy just walked out of the meeting in disgust, and just the reported quote was he gets up out of his chair and just we call ourselves the human race, and just walks out in disgust. And that's just a fucking important aspect that I think people need to understand, is that Kennedy wasn't just fighting against the Soviets or whatever. He was trying to manage a completely renegade government beneath him that hated him and was trying to circumvent his policies at every fucking turn, And that was the major reason that he fucking died, I think, was that he was just not budging on this shit. He
just wouldn't play ball.
Yeah, he was devoted to peace.
So I find it interesting that so often throughout the course of human history, these figures, which granted are few and far between, that are devoted to peace or come along and upset the established norm in some way, but not by causing violence or anything like that, with a real positive message, like the Jesus Christ, the John Lennons, the JFKs, to name a few.
Yeah.
And what do we do to those people? We kill them.
Gun them down, or crucify them, depending on what time it is.
Yeah, but it's just I don't know, it's time for that to stop. It's been time for that to stop for a long time.
Yeah, so, that leads us, the whole Kennedy thing leads us, and this is what, it's so interesting to me because it applies to today, it applies to right now, because this structure that's in place of the military-industrial complex, these people are still running the world, and Obama's no different. He's completely compromised. It's clear to see with all of his foreign policy actions in the Middle East, the way he bombs the fuck out of people with drones, and just will commit all these acts of military aggression that are unlawful by international law. And all of his legislature, or all the bills that he's passing that like the NDAA and these internet laws that establish it, the right now, Obama has the right to suspend all free communications in the United States. He can suspend the internet nationally, tap all of our phones, all of our emails, text messages, phone calls, everything. Like, he's basically nationalized all that shit. So the government you basically, what you say to anybody else is now property of the United States government.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with Obama in charge, he's done nothing but pump up everything that George W. Bush did. Obama's George W. Bush on steroids.
He was portrayed as a polar opposite when he took office.
Hope and change, right?
Yeah. Yeah, how did that work out? But that being said, I did play into that whole thing. Like, I was pro-Bush. I was pretty naive in my younger years. Yeah. You know, I thought it made a fucking difference. But now I'm to that point, and I think a lot of the American public is getting to that point where we're so jaded and we realize, like, this is a crock of shit. They're all full of shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Completely.
It's coming out their fucking ears.
Dude, I know, and it's funny and scary simultaneously.
It's very scary, but I mean, what else can we do but laugh?
Mm-hmm.
Not going to live in fear about it. Which kind of brings me to another point, something I wanted to touch on a little bit, is these conspiracy theories, and like secret societies that we talk about and stuff.
Sure. The Illuminati, the Freemasons.
Yeah, they're real, you know? Like, people kind of get uncomfortable when you're talking about them and stuff, and you know, there's probably good reason for that. It's not a comforting concept, but also another thing I would like to say is that they are real and they're kind of running the shit, but it's like the effective fear, which we talked about like in a separate podcast. Like, are you gonna let that paralyze you, or you know, there's nothing we can do about it. So don't be afraid and don't let that run your life. Just live your life. The only power that they have is what we grant them in our heads, is what I kind of think. Because their goals are so focused on death and lies. Like propagating war and making that bottom dollar and all this shit. And it's all going to decay and go away. You know?
It will over
what
time.
we can do is focus on the truth and life and love.
Yeah. And
eventually all that bullshit will fall away.
Amen. As far as like the Illuminati and the secret societies stuff goes, you know, like a lot of it gets a bad name. Again, this is kind of the Sasquatch syndrome, I think. Like, there's a lot of people saying a lot of crazy shit. You know, someone will talk about the Illuminati, then they'll talk about, you know, the fucking bases we have on Mars to fight the monsters or something, and they completely just
discredit everything they said previously.
Yeah, and so I think it's so important to like only seek the truth, and this applies to every podcast we've done and everything we ever talk about is just go towards truth, whatever that is.
And don't take our word for any of it.
Yeah.
We're just here trying to plant that seed, trying to get people to think for themselves. That's really all we're doing. We're not gurus on any of the shit we talk about.
We're just a couple of guys asking questions.
Yeah, we just feel compelled to do something. And that's about all we can do. That's about all we're capable of.
Yeah.
We don't have any answers, but we definitely have questions.
If people want more empirical evidence of such secret societies and stuff, like a lot of it gets played up in the mainstream media and marginalized and stuff. Like, we think there are all these like shape-shifting like demon people that like are secretly behind masks and robes looking at shit. It's not quite like that.
These elusive figures that like hide in rooms and never even see the light of day. No one even knows their identity.
We can put names on these figures, like the Rockefeller family and the Rothschilds. Look at the Rothschilds. Now
Bilderberg Group.
Yeah, well, the Rothschilds and Rockefellers basically run the Bilderberg Group, from what I've read.
But anyone who's like present at those meetings, it's safe assumption.
Yeah, well, they're in the know.
They're in on it.
They're in the know. And, you know, the Rothschilds have been an international banking family, and they're so creepy, man. They don't, like, they're fucking European, like, alright, you know how most people, like, have a nationality? well, these people are British, or these people are French, or these people are from Denmark.
Yeah.
The Rothschilds are this weird, like, European family to where there's members, like, these cousins and stuff nowadays. The old ones are, you know, they're old as fuck. The ones that, I mean, well, really the family goes back to the 1700s and before that.
Mm-hmm.
I think they originated in Germany or something. But all these cousins today, all these Rothschild banking family, they're across borders. They're like, there's some that are English, some that are French, some that are German. It's like this weird web of this Rothschild's family that just is in all of Europe. It's like they have no national identity because they're outside of it, because their real identity is with their bank, you know,
mm-hmm.
and their schemes and all. I mean, they own so much of the world. And then with the Rockefellers, who are kind of probably like a close number two to them, that own so much of America and are so ingrained in the whole Wall Street culture. Like, if you want to put a name to some of these faceless faces, start with those families.
Because you'd be surprised some of the people who pop up at these world meetings that they hold.
Yeah, and the Bilderberg meeting.
That's what I'm saying.
It happened. Yeah, the Bilderberg. For people that don't know, the Bilderberg group is it's a meeting. It's not a rigid group of people, because there's some people that only come once or twice. It changes a little bit every year, but there are the perennial attendees. The Bilderberg group is basically, it gets their name from the Bilderberg Hotel, I think, where they originally met, but it jumps around to different hotels all over the world every year. It usually takes place in June. It probably just happened here a few weeks ago. I forgot to even look it up. I'm sure Alex Jones was probably ranting and raving about it.
He was probably there, tripping balls again.
Yeah. But they always have the most powerful, from like all industries, like the most powerful politicians, most powerful corporate CEOs and heads of banks and all this type of stuff. And they basically discuss the state of the world, what's going to happen the next year, you know, how shit's going to play out. Interesting, in 2008, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton both attended it. And I think that anyone that's going to be president of the United States gets an introduction there, and they kind of like get let in on what the fuck's going on, you know,
mm-hmm.
and kind of they probably get instructions more than anything. But Hillary Clinton is on record being there. She was photographed there, and she's completely on record for being there. I'm pretty sure in 2008 it was like at some hotel in Virginia or something. Completely beyond a shadow of a doubt, she was there. She's documented as being there. She was there. But she was asked about it later in an interview later on during 2008, during that election cycle when she was running for president. She flat out denied it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I know Bill Clinton was there earlier too, one time. I think maybe when he was running for president the first time. But it's funny how these people that are just so... Maybe you think of the corporate elitists as kind of the Bushes and that type of thing, and maybe you think that Hillary Clinton represents some sort of change from that, and it's like so not the case.
Yeah.
She's fucking as in it as any of them are.
Anyone that our Senate is putting forward for election is just more of the same.
Yeah.
They've been put in that mold, and that's that.
Yeah, they make so many compromises on their way to power that by the time they're even in a position to run for the presidency, I don't even think they need conditioning at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe Obama. He seemed like a good guy. And at the time, of course, I was kind of in my more patriotic Bush phase.
Yeah.
And I didn't like him based on that shit.
Once he got elected, though, I wanted to believe the shit he was saying.
Yeah,
know?
like maybe this guy really is different.
Yeah.
I mean, he came up through the Senate pretty fast. I think he was only a senator. He got elected to the Senate in 2004 before running for president in 2008. This guy, maybe he's fresh. Maybe he's a fresh face. He'll get in there. Maybe he hasn't been conditioned and fucking indoctrinated yet. So that, I mean, maybe him. Just goes to show that, of course, once he got in office, he just
played that Kennedy loop.
Yeah.
That's what they did.
You're right, man. That's exactly what happened.
They bring him into a dark room. It's the Bill Hicks bit.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of old dudes, decrepit as fuck, smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
Play that loop. No words are spoken.
Yeah, the only words that are spoken.
Picture?
Yeah, get the picture. You got it?
Yeah. All right, good.
You picking up what we're laying down? Barack.
You know what's funny, though, is you mentioned Hillary Clinton flat out denying being there when she was there.
Mm-hmm.
If you look into, like, that's not the only instance where she's contradicted herself or straight up contradicted reality. She's all throughout the history of her political career.
Yeah.
She's,
Yeah.
fudge the truth a little bit.
I think Hillary Clinton is one of the most nefarious characters in modern politics.
Well, let's be real. The reason why you don't want her to be president is because she's a woman, right?
Well, of course. I don't want that glass ceiling to ever shatter, or our country's gonna crumble.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Not really.
Kind of goes against everything we've ever said on it.
Yeah, I'm joking. We should have said that on the 4th of July podcast.
Yeah.
When we were in character. But, no, she's such a warmonger. And, like, the people that I know that I've run across that are big Hillary Clinton fans, the people that are just Hillary Clinton fans, they, it seems like they can defend Hillary Clinton so long as you're attacking her from a right-wing George Bush standpoint, rather than, like, looking at her objectively. It's like every Hillary Clinton supporter has, like, they kind of have this shield built up to where they can defend any right-wing attacks or mainstream right-wing attacks, but they're completely left helpless and looking like deer in headlights if you bring up any of the actions, events, or what have you that would suggest that she is the same as all these right-wing people that they supposedly abhor. She voted to go into Iraq when George Bush went into Iraq, in 2003. She supported that at the beginning, then of course she, changed her tune later on and tried to distance herself from it, but she did that nonetheless. Her husband, Bill Clinton, was fucking invading countries all over the country people don't even know about, because they weren't some massive Iraq thing, but they were still sending American troops into all these different places or sending bombers overhead. It's the same thing, Bill Clinton was a massive interventionist, big time, warmonger. Hillary Clinton is the same damn way, and she never gets attacked for that. She gets attacked for her liberal policies or whatever, and it's like, what liberal policies? Like, maybe she wants a little bit more nationalized health care than Mitt Romney does, or something, but that's kind of where I see the differences ending. Maybe she supports gay marriage. Just these kind of just these the subtle hot button issues, in the country, without looking at the depth of character of who she is.
All these issues that are can be painted up as humanitarian, civil rights type things. Yeah. She has a more democratic leaning view, but in the big picture with like foreign policy and like, actual pressing issues of the American geopolitical system, it's all the same.
Yeah, do you think the liberty, freedom, and prosperity of Americans and individuals all over the world at any point take a front seat ahead of Hillary's ambition for power and the seat of the presidency? Anyone that believes that, well, funny.
Not much we could do for you.
Yeah, good one, And she's one example. She's just a prominent example. We'd fare better with Hillary Clinton than we would with Sarah Palin, because Hillary's intelligent. She's a smart woman.
Yeah.
She's practiced in her character. Sarah Palin's someone that's like, holy fuck, she is dumb. How is she even in national politics?
Well, that being said, though, it really wouldn't make much difference how smart or, deep someone would be when the presidential seat has been reduced to that of a puppet.
Yeah. Well, who can play the best character?
Yeah, it's all about who can talk well.
And
who's the wordsmith?
Yeah, and I'm predicting, I'm going on record here in July 2013 in my prediction that in 2016, the big election, it's going to come down to Hillary Clinton versus Rand Paul. Ron Paul's son, which, you know, I would have been excited for Rand, had he not compromised himself in my eyes. He endorsed Mitt Romney, and since the last election cycle, I think he's been further distancing himself from his dad's kind of positions. And the one good thing about Rand Paul, I think I still think he's got a clear head when it comes to national foreign policy. I think that he's against all this war and interventions around the world, which is like a major part of it. But he also, there's some weird things that he does. Like, I know he's a real ardent, like, pro-life person, and I mean, come on, like, you can't be too pro-life about this shit. Like,
yeah,
it's the 21st century. I think people have the right to choose, you know, when it comes to abortions, which is a whole other topic. But there's
it's not really any different from using a condom, as long as they're not, like, you know.
Yeah, well, if you do it soon enough.
Full developed fetus.
Sure. But I just mean, yeah, aside from like that issue in particular, I'm just saying kind of his connection to these pretentious kind of mainstream right-wing positions that I think he's probably clinging to, probably so he has a chance to get the Republican nomination.
Yeah, so he has a platform.
Yeah.
And people who will vote for him.
Yeah. So I don't.
So that's the name of the game.
I'm at the point now where I'm not going to support any mainstream Democrat or Republican. I've washed my hands of both those parties, and I don't think we're going to see any change until an independent candidate comes along with no party. I don't care about the Green Party or the Brown Party or whatever the fuck. We need a fucking independent candidate, and I think maybe this is a segue into another conversation about we should do away with political parties. Why can't candidates for elected office in this country run on their own merits, just as themselves, without being affiliated with a party?
Well, yeah, going back to what you said about Rand Paul, like you said, I would have been stoked for that before he kind of compromised himself, so to speak.
Kind of dipped his nuts in the GOP fucking punch bowl.
Yeah. Ron Paul, on the other hand, is someone who I would totally get behind and think is the man for the job.
Yeah.
But he's getting kind of old. And,
I think he's like 77, 78 now.
Yeah, and the main...
he's not running.
Yeah, the main American public wouldn't vote for him, either on those grounds or just because of his policies and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, last time, like we said earlier, I'm so jaded with this shit. Last time the elections rolled around, I just didn't vote in protest.
Yeah.
Which, not that anyone noticed or that it really made a difference.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think we should still let our voices be heard and whatnot.
Yeah, I didn't vote not to make a statement. I just didn't vote because it didn't matter. Like, it's going to be the same either way. Like, I couldn't get behind either of these candidates. For the record, I mean, we're probably better off with Obama than Romney, but not much is different. Like, on all the pertinent issues, they'll have the exact same position. Romney was a crazy Mormon, and I guess I'm glad he's not the president, but we could do I don't know. It's still, like you were saying, it's not going to make a difference.
Yeah, but I think we should do away with this whole bipartisanship. It ties into the overall theme of a lot of our podcasts. It's time to evolve, not only as humans, but to evolve our political systems, our education systems, everything needs an overhaul. It worked at one time, maybe, but that time has long since passed.
Yeah, well, it worked for political ends. Like, why does this person have to be a Democrat or Republican? Why can't they run on their own merits? You know why? Because they're going to be held accountable. If you say that I'm going to do this and you don't have that cushion of being ingrained in this political party that a person supports or doesn't support,
it's a security blanket.
Yeah,
well, I had to, or, you know.
Yeah, well, right off the bat, then you have the support of half the nation.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, that needs to go away. That needs to end. Like, I want to see that. Like, two things I want to see in my lifetime. I want to have evidence of extraterrestrial contact, and I want to see Democrats and Republicans in the party system be abolished, and have all of our elected government officials run, not associate with the party, just run as themselves. Like if you're going to run for a party, let's say you want to run for the governor of the state of Washington, you run as John Crass. You don't run as John Crass
Republican
D in parentheses or R in parentheses.
Yeah.
Like that you're going to conform to some stupid fucking platform of a bunch of fucking morons that are old and that are dying off, and some unevolved, that came up through some unevolved time and in a bigoted and rigid structure of a political system. Like fuck that, man. God damn it, we should get past that. Like we have to if we're going to survive, man. If we want to take back our country from the coup of the JFK assassination.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that definitely needs to be done. I think a major problem would be that so much of the American public kind of prefers it the way that it is with the bipartisanship, because it's so easy to project them as the opponents and take a harsh stance on certain things and argue rather than focusing on the issues. They would be lost. They'd be like, well, what do we do now?
Yeah,
we can't argue anymore.
Much. Yeah, it's too easy just to vote for the Republican or just vote for the Democrat.
Yeah.
Everybody, when it comes to politics in this country and just general opinions across the board culturally, it's like they're rooting for a fucking sports team. It's like that's how you're with your team no matter what, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's gotten us into some pretty fucking sorry shit shape, I'm sorry to say. Like I would pose that if anyone's still listening to this podcast, I ask the question right now, like, defend the political party system to me. Can you defend it? I want to hear, I genuinely want to hear someone bring a good point about why there's a party system. Why are there political parties? Can anyone provide, like, a single good point that the party systems bring? Why can't people just run on their own merits as individuals? You know? Like, I want to hear one person make one point in defense of that. And I know that they're not gonna, because there is none. There fucking is none for a logical, rational person. If, like, maybe the only point it could be for anybody is that it's an easy job. I latch onto the Democrat fucking chain and just, I'm gonna ride that thing to, the governorship or some shit. Like I don't know. I really can't. It's so 17th century. Let's evolve.
Well, and it kind of, I don't know, it gets confusing when you kind of break it down, like why this certain stance on a hot button issue is a Democratic idea, or why it's a Republican. Like, why is it that Democrats are pro-gay marriage and Republicans are anti-gay marriage? Why is it that the Democrats are pro-choice and the Republicans are pro-life? What does that have to do with anything? Like, it's just easy to make those two opposing forces and have them go at it.
Yeah, totally. Like, kind of circumvents individual thought, I think. Like, independent thought, Like, I'm pro-choice, pro-gay marriage, because those are rights of individuals.
But you're not a fucking Democrat.
Yeah, I'm not a Democrat, but I'm anti-war. I'm against like the nationalization of like people's fucking asset. I think taxes are a fucking kind of essentially like we're taxed too much in this country, but at the same time, taxes are a good thing. Like they all go to the greater good. I know that like a lot of corporations aren't taxed enough. It's like it gets so convoluted with if you try to slice your political outlooks onto one side, either Democrat or Republican. Mm-hmm. And I'm so like in between on some issues, and then over here, then over there, and then it's like I'm just trying to take a rational look at it. Yeah. Like everyone has rights as individuals. I'm completely against the drug war. I think all drugs should be fucking legalized. Like all of them. Like it's their own consciousness. We already have laws in place for robbery or murder or whatever. Like try to like sociological like personality you're trying to label like drug users. Like that's like a whole nother topic, I guess. But like I think people should have individual rights, and I think there should be like progressive healthcare and progressive education and like safety nets for people You know, like, I believe in all that progressive kind of legislature and these progressive, like, programs.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, we are getting taxed way too fucking much. And don't bring up the progressive don't bring up healthcare and education when I start bitching about taxes, because all of our tax money, like, a portion,
it's not going to that
it's going
shit.
to wars, man.
Yeah.
It's going to fucking military-industrial complex. Let's get rid of the fucking military. How about? Ooh. Oh, no.
You bring up a
You
good...
hate America.
Yeah. That'll just get you pariah status, you know. You're just instantly martyred saying shit like that. But it's true. And you bring up a good point about the taxing. I think, like, the middle class, low class Americans are taxed too much, and the corporations aren't taxed enough. But it's evidence of the military-industrial complex being in power. That's what that is right there. And
like, I want to pay taxes to good, progressive, peaceful fucking programs.
Yeah, to a truly representative government. But our government is not truly representative. Mm-hmm. It's so corrupt and obsolete. It's just it's crumbling.
Yeah.
So hopefully when it finally does, you know, shit hits the proverbial fan, we get a truly representative government in place. That's what I would hope for. And another thing that you said that I liked, and it's not that I'm condoning drug use or anything, but too much time and energy and money is spent on the war on drugs when people are going to do what they're going to fucking do.
Like the war on drugs. Like, even a war on an object, like a plant.
It's not a war on drugs.
A war on plants.
Yeah. I mean, like, good luck.
Fuck.
That's nature.
Good one, Richard
it's not
Nixon.
a war on drugs. It's a war on personal freedoms and an individual's right to sovereignty over their own consciousness.
Yeah.
And if you legalize them, a lot of the argument against it would be, oh, well, everybody's going to get fucked up and stuff. Well, not true. The people who were going to become junkies and addicts and get fucked up will still get fucked up, and the other people won't.
Yeah, the only thing that's going to change, we already have laws in place against theft, murder, rape, assault, whatever, you name it. All that's going to happen is that all the people that are in prison for strictly experimenting with their own consciousness are going to get out of prison.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be in prison. Like, if someone
That's another huge drain on tax dollars that we don't need.
If someone is a completely peaceful person and does not harm any other person in any way, their only crime is that they take drugs to to change their own consciousness, whether it be fucking... Well, I'm not even going to say all the drugs, because I think they should all be legalized, and obviously, I'm against most drugs.
Yeah.
There's some, like... But, you know...
As we're sitting here passing the meth pipe back and forth.
Oh, shit. That's not true. Disclaimer. That was a joke. Or is it?
If it was true, I think it'd be plainly obvious. Oh, yeah! Okay.
But you know what? Yeah. If someone... Dude, but seriously, like we already have... If someone gets all fucked up on some sort of drug and then goes out and murders someone or steals some shit, then there's already laws in place. They're going to jail for murdering or stealing shit.
Yeah, not for doing drugs.
Yeah, why is there...
They should have thought of that before they took the drug.
Yeah. Like, if someone's going to go to prison, they should be paying for one of those serious crimes where they harm another individual. I think all crime is something that one person commits against another that causes harm in some way to another person. That's the definition of crime, or at least what it should be.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to sit in your own house peacefully, turn on the TV and do a drug, name your drug, whatever, I don't fucking care. You know?
It's none of my business.
Yeah,
it's none of anybody else's business.
If it's one of the bad drugs that just deteriorate your mind and just totally fuck you,
that's your choice.
It's your choice, and, you know, have fun, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna do it, but...
And it's not the right choice by societal standards or whatever, religious or whatever else, but it's your choice.
Yeah, so let's take our tax dollars out of that bullshit.
Yeah.
The war on... Let's say, alright, the war on drugs, number one. Number two, obviously... the war on everybody, which we call the war on terror. Let's totally fucking reduce this military spending. Let's just take a butcher knife to that goddamn budget. Like, we need to.
Well, it's the war on everybody, so to speak, everybody against the United States. If you're not a member of the United States, you're subject to it. And also... on American citizens. Look at all the fucking money that's spent on the NSA monitoring and all that.
The NDAA, the
internet shit, everything.
Yeah.
It's like, there have to be people getting paid to do all that shit, and they're probably paying them to keep quiet about it too.
And again, this is one of those things that like there's not going to be any change until people get together and protest it. Not necessarily protest it in the streets with signs. I mean like a real protest, like, you know, every like American citizen needs to just snap out of this haze and like and just like demand to their government that this stops. Like, there's not enough people that do that, you know? Like, this has to fucking end. Like, end this military empire that we have. Let's end all this spying and just, like, this Orwellian surveillance that's you know, happening now on the American public. Like, the American public needs to step up and demand this end. And that's the whole another aspect of it is that, again, apathy. That the American public just doesn't give a fucking shit. They're too bought into the
too comfortable
mainstream culture and the patriotic shit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're too. This is our team, America. Woo! Get her done. Like we're making fun of.
They're too comfortable with the status quo, and they'll lose all the benefits and the perks of being a modern American.
Yeah.
And most people, that's just a totally harrowing and despicable thought.
And they think they do, but they won't. That's the, you know, like
it will be a better reality that we all live in.
Yeah, just like if let's say the Africans and Asians and people in the Middle East start living full happy lives like we enjoy in America, for, you know, at least some of us in America. That doesn't mean that Americans are gonna lose their big screen TV, you know.
Yeah.
And your fucking beers at night and
no,
like whatever makes
a better
and
world
your kids,
for all of us.
Yeah, it's not like anything's getting drawn away from us. It's not like we're gonna lose anything.
Yeah.
We're gonna gain something. We're gonna gain like the love and respect of people throughout the world, you know? Like one fucking earth that's just all happy together and just fucking having a good time. You can fly to Egypt and there's not gonna be any political fucking like dangers of going there, man. It's just like one big fucking party that never ends, man. That's the point that like we have
access. What a beautiful thought that is.
And let's say we're all thriving off of Nikola Tesla's free energy system. Like just
that's what I'm saying, man. Like it'd be an unfathomably greater reality that we all exist.
You work fucking 20 hours a week at a job that pays you what it's really worth, and you know your costs of living aren't totally inflated by the corporate and fucking like mainstream like influences that kind of dictate prices and make it so that like you can barely scrape by working 40 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's bullshit. Like that's not how it needs to be. You can work way less time and make way less or make way more money. Maybe not actual dollars like on paper, but the cost of living would be so much less. Yeah, it would be worth so much more.
The power of the dollar is actually representative of what
exactly.
it should be.
Exactly. Like, you know, and then other people, you know, you take shifts at your job. Maybe there's like 3 jobs created for every job in this country, and you're all making what it's worth, and you can all have a home and live in fucking peace. And like there's just so much there's so much work to be done. You know, like we can create paradise, utopia here on Earth. Why not? Look at this amazing planet. Look at how like the lush greenery and water that we have. It's fucking people, man, that are keeping us down. It's other people, and like. And it's something that like it needs to come to an end. There has to be that evolution in thought, man. It comes down to every person. Like let's just fucking like let go of the past, man.
Just cut the shit, basically. But yeah, that's just a beautiful, beautiful thought.
Mm-hmm.
The world as one. Just one never-ending party.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what it would be, man. And like, how many...
Everybody loves everybody.
How many people that aren't stuck at some job for 40 to 60 to 70, even sometimes hours a week, and just tripping on their bills and their yard work when they get home and just living this life, you know, I mean, how many people are going to be opened up to actually explore things that really interest them and passions and things that they don't even know about yet that'll really captivate them and like fill them with some sort of meaning in their lives.
Yeah.
How many great artists are, you know, stifled right now because they've never thought about
inventors,
it. Yeah.
Engineers, people would just be making amazing badass shit all the time.
It'd be exponential.
Yeah,
It would
snowball
exponentially
effect.
pick up. And yeah, you know, like it's tangible now. Like we're here sitting here in 2013, and it's like we're at that cusp. Like we have the technology to do all this shit. It's just the social change isn't there yet.
Well, hopefully it's coming.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, there's this analogy that I wanted to bring up, because I think it's an analogy I thought of today, and I think it applies to literally like everything we've talked about on the podcast.
The all-encompassing analogy?
Yes. The all-encompassing analogy, and I call it like the shield analogy. And now whether we're talking about like someone that's just kind of like a stubborn, to go back to the last podcast, someone that's just like a stubborn evangelical religious person, whether it's something you're facing in your like your career and you're not making money and you're trying to get by and you're trying to find a way out of this situation in your life, whether it's all of society trying to change. Imagine like some dude with a shield, some big iron shield, like imagine some Spartan guy. And he's got this huge like iron shield. And for the sake of the analogy, let's say you got to kill this guy. You're doing battle with this guy. This guy's resistance, you know?
Kill or be killed.
Yeah. What seems to be the common thing is people will pick up their little pick or their axe or their little dagger, and they'll run at the shield. The shield represents just resistance to change, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They're just going to start, you know, pecking away at the shield with their little dagger, trying to, like, cut it or trying to get through it. But it's not going anywhere. It's an iron shield, you know? That's like, the mainstream, like, lines of thinking that are in place are this iron shield that we all come up against. And this is about thinking outside the box. Like, you don't have to go through that iron shield. You can just change. You can evolve. You can change your position a little bit and go around to where it's vulnerable on the side and stab him there. This represents, like, religion, you know? Like, people that are just so, you know, stubborn and refuse to, like, let go of these older interpretations with their iron shield. And, or, like, we were talking about, like, Hillary Clinton and people that are just, like, so attached to, like, a political party and shit that they have this shield that's in place, and they can defend attacks from a certain standpoint. They can defend attacks from, like, the right wing. Mm-hmm. Or if you're defending Mitt Romney, you can defend attacks from the left wing. But if you come at him from a unique way that's outside the box and stab him right there in the side from a place they didn't see coming, you can totally end it. You can end the whole thing. You can end the debate. You can end the conversation. You can defeat any point that they were making. And it's all about changing and thinking outside the box. There's always a vulnerable spot. This is the same as what I would say we're doing with careers and jobs. I mean, we're 25 and we're not the most successful people career-wise, if we're going to be honest.
We're still here.
Yeah. But we're not. But that's the thing, is we're not taking our little tin dagger up to the iron shield and trying to crack through society and trying to crack through just enough to get that job, like, supposedly will make us happy or whatever.
Yeah.
We're right in the process of, like, changing our position a little bit, and then we're going to bring a big fucking dagger through and stab the guy on the side where he's vulnerable. Avoid the iron shield is my point. Avoid that stupid, stubborn, like, position, whatever it is, that's mainstream, that like, most people in society think you need to fucking start cracking down in order to be successful in life. Just avoid that whole fucking thing.
Just circumvent it.
Circumvent it. Take a sidestep and stab them where it hurts, right through the ribs, where they're vulnerable. Basically, we're we're trying to find different ways around it. We're gonna find a different way around it. You know, and it's true in any debate that you come across in politics, religion, just things going on in the world right now, things in your own life, unhappiness that you might face. Events in your life that you think is this big unmovable iron shield that you just can't crack, this big challenge. There's ways around it. You can circumvent it. You can just ignore it. Just get rid of it. Like, just fucking move past it. Don't even bother with it. Don't bother with it. Like, it's not worth your time as a fucking individual that's here for just such a fucking a blink of an eye, such a fleeting moment that you're here on this life for. Avoid the iron shield. Don't even give them the time of day. You know, don't validate it by fucking trying to fight it. Just go around it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that encompasses everything we've ever talked about on the podcast.
Well, it definitely ties in with what I was saying earlier about the elitist groups and secret societies and conspiracy theories of, you know, these parties running the world and stuff. Like, are you going to let that dictate your life and live in fear of it?
Mm-hmm.
Or just seek happiness and realize that it has no bearing on who you are and your choices? I mean, yeah, it ties into everything, but I think that's a pretty easy parallel to draw right there.
Yeah, definitely. You know, you got your iron shield up with a big D on it or the big R on it, you know, to your political party or whatever, but, you know, it's
that's
like...
fighting a losing battle if you're going at it with a dagger, fucking ice pick.
Yeah.
And just chipping away. Good luck.
Yeah, but that's the battle that so many people choose to fight when they don't need to be fighting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like go towards peace and truth in every aspect of your life, and you're gonna be happier. I'm telling you, you're gonna be happier. Like, you're gonna find, like, there's so much more to this life than the fucking little paradigm that we're all presented. You know, don't accept things as they are. Question them and find your own way.
Yeah. And, like, another thing I found interesting that you said that I really liked, because we do our best to not condone violence and all that shit. You know, it was just an analogy that you said, like, you know, stab them in the side or whatever, or just ignore it altogether.
Yeah.
Just don't give them the time of day.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a powerful thing right there.
Yeah, ignore it. Walk away.
Yeah.
Walk away. You don't need that shit. You don't need the resistance with the iron shield. You don't need the standards of society to make you who you are, to make you happy. Walk away. Just...
Most of the great people in the history of the world, I would tend to say, you know, came into conflict with society overall and the way things were. So if you are experiencing some kind of discord in your life, then I would say that's probably a good sign.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, name one, like, influential figure in history, one, like, great sage, one great mind, one wise person that really gave something to all of us, some wisdom or art to look back on, that didn't clash with society in their time.
Or have some kind of adversity they needed to overcome or something.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's common in all those stories, and, you know, every single person can fight that battle to no avail, or they can walk away from it and say, fuck that, I'm not playing your game, I'm gonna go do my thing, you know, as my right as an individual, not as my duty as a member of a community, because fuck that shit.
Yeah.
You're your own person. Don't let anybody fool you that you're not.
Well, do we call it?
I think it's about time to wrap it up.
Alright. Well, we're pleased you could join us again. We'll do our best to keep these coming.
Yep.
If you keep coming back.